I used to believe our family was imperfect but loyal, that beneath the snide remarks, silent comparisons, and uneven affection, there was still some kind of foundation that wouldn't crack. I believed that for 26 years, and then, one quiet Sunday evening, I discovered the truth with a single accidental click. I was visiting my parents for the weekend, trying once again to prove I was worth the same love they freely poured onto my sister, Emma. My father had asked me to help fix his old laptop that kept freezing. While he went to take a phone call, I tried checking the storage. A document was open on the screen, an email draft addressed to their lawyer. I didn't mean to read it. I swear I didn't, but my eyes caught one line and then the next, and suddenly everything in me went cold. We want Emma to inherit the house, savings, and assets. Our other child can be left a small stipend, nothing complicated. Our other child, not my name. Not me, just the other one. My breath hitched and my heart thundered painfully against my ribs. I stared at the words, hoping I was misunderstanding, hoping this was something else. But there it was, proof that my parents saw me as an afterthought, a problem to avoid rather than a daughter to cherish. When my father came back into the room, he looked at me, then at the screen. For a moment, guilt flickered in his eyes, but it vanished quickly, replaced by resignation. "I suppose you saw it," he said, voice steady as stone. My throat tightened. Why would you do this?" He sighed, as if I were the difficult one. "You're strong, you'll be fine without all that. Emma, she needs more support. She needs everything," I whispered. My mother walked in just as my father's words hung heavy in the air. When she saw the expression on my face, she didn't look surprised. She only folded her arms. "Sweetheart, don't make this dramatic," she said. "We're doing what's best for the family. Emma is settling down soon. She'll have children. She needs stability." "And I don't." The question cracked coming out of my throat. "You're independent," she said, as if it were a flaw. "You don't rely on us. That's a good thing." I felt something inside me splinter. I had worked for years, desperately trying to earn scraps of approval. I was the one who showed up every holiday, who fixed their broken appliances, who helped them when they were sick while Emma came and went as she pleased. Always the golden one, always forgiven. But even then, a small part of me still hoped that they cared, that I mattered. I realized then, I didn't. I left the house without another word. I drove home in a fog, gripping the steering wheel with numb fingers. I thought that was the worst of it. I thought I had already hit the deepest point of betrayal. But 2 weeks later, the second blow arrived. Emma sent out her wedding invitations. Everyone in the family, every distant cousin and childhood neighbor, even people she barely spoke to anymore, everyone received an elegant cream-colored envelope sealed with a golden E. I didn't. When I confronted her, she didn't even try to pretend. "It's just better this way," she said, shrugging lightly. "We don't want tension at the ceremony." "Tension?" I repeated. "Why would there be tension?" Emma glanced at me pityingly. Fake pity, the kind that cuts deeper than cruelty. "Well, after everything with the inheritance, it just seems like you might bring emotional baggage. I want the day to be perfect. Family only," my mother added from behind her. Family only, and somehow I wasn't part of that definition. That night, I packed a single suitcase. For the first time in my life, I didn't tell anyone where I was going. I walked away from the house where I had grown up, from the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally. And for the first time, I finally understood the family I thought I had never really existed. The first morning I woke up in my tiny new apartment, sunlight spilled across the wooden floorboards as if offering quiet encouragement. The place wasn't impressive, peeling paint in the corners, a stove that buzzed when preheating, windows that rattled when the wind blew, but it was mine. And after everything, that meant something. I spent the first week rebuilding my life from scratch. I got a job at a small cafe a few blocks away, where the scent of roasted beans clung to the air and customers trickled in with sleepy smiles. It was simple work, taking orders, wiping tables, greeting strangers, but the routine grounded me. It kept my mind from replaying conversations I never wanted to hear again. Even so, nights were hard. Silence had a way of pulling me back to the memory of my mother's indifferent face, my father's cold logic, and Emma's dismissive laugh. I would sit on the windowsill with a cheap blanket wrapped around me, wondering if they even noticed I was gone. But life, as it often does, had plans for me I couldn't yet see. I first noticed Michael on a rainy Wednesday morning. The cafe bell chimed and in he walked, shaking droplets from his coat. He wasn't striking in the loud attention, demanding way Emma's fiancé had always been. He was quietly handsome, calm brown eyes, soft smile, presence warm like gentle morning sunlight. He ordered a black coffee, but he stayed, sitting near the window, watching the rain streak down the glass as if the moment itself meant something. His eyes flickered over the room every so often, and when they met mine, he offered a small, polite smile. And somehow, that simple gesture made my chest ease for the first time in weeks. He returned the next day, and the next. Eventually, he stopped being the quiet man with the black coffee and became a familiar figure, a steady presence, someone I secretly waited to see. One slow afternoon, as I wiped down tables, he approached the counter. "You look like you've had a long day," he said gently. I let out a breathy laugh. "Is it that obvious?" "A little," he replied, smiling, "but mostly I can tell because your eyes look tired, not your body." It was a strange thing to say, but it didn't feel intrusive. It felt noticed. That day we talked, really talked. He told me he worked in tech consulting. I told him I was trying to restart my life. He didn't pry, didn't press, didn't ask the nosy questions people usually ask. He had this rare ability to listen quietly, giving each word space to breathe. Over the next few weeks, our conversations stretched longer. He'd linger after his coffee, and I'd find excuses to wipe the counter again just to stay near him. It wasn't sudden, it wasn't dramatic, but inch by inch, I began feeling safe again. One night, after the cafe closed, I found him waiting outside. "You walk home alone every evening?" he asked. "Yes," I said, shrugging. "It's not far." "Let me walk with you," he offered. "If you don't mind the company." And so he did. With every shared step under the streetlights, I felt the weight on my shoulders grow lighter. He didn't know about my family yet. He didn't know the scars I carried. He didn't know the pain I tried to bury. But he saw me, not the disappointment my parents called me, not the inconvenience the will labeled me. Just me. It took a month before I told him the whole story. We were sitting on a park bench, the early evening sky painted pink and orange. My voice trembled as I recounted the inheritance, the wedding, the quiet cruelty. When I finished, I looked away, ashamed of my tears. But Michael turned toward me, eyes soft yet fierce. "What they did says nothing about your worth," he said. "Some people throw away diamonds because they prefer the glitter of cheap glass." I inhaled shakily. No one had defended me like that before. He reached out, gently taking my hand. "You're not alone anymore." The words wrapped around me like a promise. And for the first time since my world had fallen apart, I believed it. 6 months after Michael first walked into the cafe, he got down on one knee. It happened on a quiet evening atop the rooftop of my apartment building. He had decorated it with warm string lights, soft music, and a small table set with my favorite foods. Simple, comforting things that somehow felt like home. When he opened the velvet box and asked me to marry him, his hands trembled slightly, as if he feared losing me. My yes came out choked with tears. The next morning, I posted a small picture online, just our hands, his fingers wrapped around mine, the engagement ring glinting softly in the sun. Nothing extravagant, nothing bragging, but it was enough to catch the attention of people who had once gone silent the moment I needed them. My phone buzzed non-stop by the afternoon. My mother, congratulations. We must talk soon. Weddings require family involvement. My father, we're happy for you. Let us know how we can support. Emma, of all people, wow, engaged already. I didn't expect that. Anyway, we'd love to come to the wedding. Love. As if the word came naturally to her. I showed Michael the messages later that evening. He read them quietly, then looked at me with that gentle, steady gaze. You don't have to invite them, he said. You don't owe them anything. I know. I swallowed, but I don't want to hide from the past anymore. I want them to see that I'm okay, more than okay. He nodded slowly. Then we'll do this your way. And so we planned our wedding. We chose a venue overlooking a serene river, a place wrapped in soft greenery and golden light, exactly the opposite of the cold house I once grew up in. The decor was elegant yet calm, the kind of beauty that didn't need to scream to be noticed. When the invitations went out, I didn't send a special message to my family. I didn't ask if they were coming. I didn't chase their approval. I simply included their names like I would for any distant acquaintance. Weeks passed and my life grew fuller. Dress fittings, cake tastings, laughter. Filled nights with friends. Michael was with me through every step, never controlling, always supporting. He told me one night while we folded wedding favors together, I don't want to be your shield, I want to be your partner. You've survived so much without anyone. Now let someone stand with you. And for the first time, I let someone. The day of the wedding arrived with perfect weather, clear skies, warm breeze, sunlight shimmering across the river. I stood in the bridal suite, wrapped in a gown that flowed like water, my hair pinned with delicate pearls. When I caught my reflection, I almost didn't recognize the woman staring back. She looked whole, she looked loved, she looked free. My family arrived just before the ceremony. They walked in as a cluster. My mother adjusting her necklace, my father carrying a strained smile, Emma wearing a tight dress and an even tighter expression. They expected perhaps to find me flustered, maybe even desperate to impress them. But when they saw the elegant venue, the rows of guests, the soft music, the attention to detail, they froze. My mother blinked, this is lovely. My father cleared his throat, very well organized, but Emma, she didn't bother hiding her shock. You planned all this. No, I said softly, we planned all this. Her gaze slid to Michael, who was greeting guests with warm confidence. The realization hit her like a spark. He wasn't just charming, he was successful, respected, admired. For the first time in my life, I saw something new in her eyes, not pity, not superiority, but envy. When the ceremony began and I walked down the aisle toward Michael, my family watched in stunned silence. And in that moment, a truth settled deep within me. I didn't need them to regret losing me. I didn't need revenge to feel powerful. The life I had built, the love, the peace, the joy was the sweetest triumph of all. Still, seeing their faces as they realized the daughter they had thrown away had risen far above their expectations, well, that was a bonus I savored quietly. The reception glowed with soft lanterns. Light, the river behind us, shimmering like a sheet of glass. Guests laughed, glasses clinked, and music floated gently in the evening air. It felt like the world had wrapped itself in warmth just for us. Just for this moment. I had just finished speaking with an old friend when I felt a familiar tension ripple through the room. A shift in energy I had known since childhood, the quiet dread that came before confrontation. I turned, and there they were. My parents and Emma stood together, hesitant, as if unsure whether they were welcome in a space filled with so much love. For the first time, they looked like outsiders. They looked like the ones who didn't belong. It was strange, almost surreal. My mother approached first. Her smile was stiff, her eyes glossy, as though she were performing regret rather than feeling it. "You look beautiful," she said. "Truly, thank you," I replied kindly, keeping my tone calm, polite, distant. My father cleared his throat, hands clasped. We wanted to say congratulations, and also, his voice wavered, surprising even him. We wanted to say we're sorry. The words hung there, fragile and soft. Emma shifted uneasily behind them. "For what?" I asked, not cruelly, but honestly. I needed them to say it, for not treating you fairly. My mother whispered, "For the inheritance, for the wedding, for everything." My father nodded slowly, his gaze heavy with something between regret and realization. "We didn't think we were hurting you. We thought we were doing what made sense. But seeing all this, seeing you like this, we were wrong." Emma stepped forward then, arms crossed. But unlike our parents, she didn't try to hide her discomfort or guilt. "I didn't expect your wedding to look like this," she admitted. "I didn't expect you to be this happy." Her eyes flickered toward Michael, who was laughing with his best friend across the room. "I guess I didn't think you'd move on from leaving the family." "You didn't leave the family," I corrected softly. "The family left me." That silenced her. For a long moment, the four of us stood there, breathing in a past too heavy to hold, but too real to ignore. Finally, my father reached out, not to touch me, but as if offering something invisible. "We'd like another chance," he said. The old me would have bent, would have accepted with shaking relief, desperate for any scrap of love they offered. But I wasn't that person anymore. "I appreciate the apology," I said gently. "Truly, but I've learned something important over the past year." They waited. "You can forgive people," I continued, without letting them occupy the same place in your life again. My mother frowned softly. "So you don't want us in your life?" "I want peace," I said, feeling the truth settle warmly in my chest. "And peace means boundaries. I'm willing to start over, slowly, but things can't go back to what they were." My father nodded, almost relieved. My mother looked conflicted, but she didn't argue. Emma looked like she wanted to protest, but for once she said nothing. Michael arrived beside me then, his hand slipping gently into mine, grounding me. "Everything okay?" he asked softly. I smiled. "Yes, everything is exactly how it should be." He pressed a kiss to my temple, and my parents stepped back, watching us with a mixture of awe and quiet understanding. They weren't the center of my world anymore. They weren't even close. Later that night, as the final lanterns flickered and guests began to leave, I stood at the river's edge, the cool breeze brushing my skin. Michael wrapped his arms around me from behind. "Proud of you," he murmured. I leaned back into him. I feel free because I was. I had walked through betrayal, abandonment, and heartbreak. I had rebuilt myself in silence. I had found love without searching for it, peace without asking for it, and closure without needing vengeance. As the moon reflected across the water, I realized something profound. My family's rejection wasn't the end of my story. It was the beginning of becoming someone stronger, brighter, and infinitely more deserving of the life I had now. And this time, this future, I was choosing for myself, with love, with boundaries, with strength, and finally with peace.